Hi, thanks for coming. Today we're going to be talking about three areas within UX. The first one being is to how to evaluate the foundation of your user experience. The second is the importance of developing a clear testing strategy. And the third is how our UX review process can help you reveal opportunities to improve your UX and hopefully improve conversion. But before we get into that, you'd probably like to know a little bit about Akil and myself. So I'll go first. I've been a UX practitioner for over 20 years, which is hard to believe, just because thinking about the UX profession as being a thing for that long is a little hard to digest. I started on the agency side as the senior creative director for agency.com, at the time the third largest interactive agency globally. While at agency.com, I was responsible for some really great brands, Visa, Nike, and Intel, just to name a few. And it was an incredible time to be in the profession, lots of experimentation, and honestly, we were writing the rules about UX as we went, since it was such a new field. From agency.com, I went to work for an internet icon, AOL. Incredible as it sounds, I was one of a handful of ex-agency talent asked to usher in the era of HTML for AOL. Some of you may remember the walled garden that was the business model of AOL. Well, AOL realized that it was doomed to be irrelevant, so it made an effort to move past that great wall. While at AOL, I helped rebuild their classified section, which included shopping, real estate, autos, and the travel channels. From there, I went to Sears, where I was asked to help start their UX discipline. And what a time to be in UX. Eddie Lambert was convinced that following the tenets of Fountainhead and building the digital channels of Sears was the path to success for one of the country's most loved brands. It was an amazing time to be in UX. Anything that we could think of found a budget under Mr. Lambert. The perfect storm for outstanding work and unfortunate mistakes. This is when I learned how badly things could go when you accepted the idea of build it and they will come. From a modest beginning of 17 individuals, we grew to the largest interactive agency in Chicago in just 2 years. And along the way, we were able to build Sears.com into the third largest marketplace on the internet. And finally, I took a position as Director of UX and Design at Columbia Sportswear, which really was a perfect fit for me, combining my two passions, design and doing stuff outdoors. My task at Columbia was to help them establish their digital channels. Already a hugely successful wholesaler with their brands, Columbia, Sorel, Mountain Hardwear, and Prana, Columbia was really late to direct to consumer. My job was to help them realize their true potential as a direct to consumer brand and build their online business. And now I'll let Akil introduce himself.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for the introduction. So hello, everyone. My name is Akil. I look into the e-commerce side of things at Royal Cyber. I'm AVP Digital Commerce. And if you are a repeat listener to Royal Cyber webinars, you must have seen me in one of the videos. Within my practice, I focus on HCL, I focus on Adobe, we focus on commerce tools. Royal Cyber is a technology agnostic organization. We do have various verticals that focus on SAP Hybris, and we focus on Salesforce, so on and so forth. We have been in the business for the last 17 years, while we started with IBM, but we gradually graduated into supporting all the platforms that are in the enterprise space, whether it was monolith or microservices, to be talking about the modern era platforms. We are 1,000+ employees globally. We have more than 130 customers around the globe, and we cater to 12+ industries. So the global presence that we have does help us a lot in maintaining a 24/7 pipeline that we offer to our customers, both in managed services and if we were to cater to their business hours as well. After North America, APAC is our second largest area of operation. We are present in Europe, we are present in Middle East, Latin America, and yeah, so on and so forth. So, but today's focus that I really want to highlight is the UI UX and what Royal Cyber is doing in that area. And as you can see, we have been able to partner with so many different technology companies. And if you want to have a glimpse of the customers that we are dealing with, so we do have a wide scale of customers varying from various industries, from retail, manufacturing, building material, steel, and services. So we have various products that also we have built to fill the gaps that we have across all these various e-commerce platforms. And as part of filling that gaps, we have done a lot of learning on the UI UX space, and that is the whole reason for this webinar today, because we want to emphasize why UI UX is important. So if you can move to the next slide, please. And yeah, and while we do that, we make sure that we do put into account all that hard work, and we do get recognized. So some of our winnings from last year, if you want to look at how customers are appreciating what Royal Cyber does. And the best part is, like, all the learnings that we have from past 17 years, we put them into accelerators products, whether it's UI UX, whether it's DevOps, whether it's continuous testing, whether it's front end, including single page applications, backend dashboards where you can have track a single view of orders, so on and so forth. We have built so many products which we pass on to our customers free of cost. So today's focus is primarily going to be on how UI UX is important. And sooner or later, if you guys can go back 2 years, you will realize that at that point UI really became a very hot topic, like how to get more customers. Because even if you're selling everything, you have listed everything on your website, is that reaching the customer? Is it falling on the same path that the customer is trying to traverse? Whether the customer is coming from mobile, whether they're coming from the desktop, whether they're using any social media platform to reach out to your products, can they see what you are publishing? If they are searching for something, are the products visible, and how the journey looks like? So all the focus came on the customer journey, and it has not gone down since then. It's ever increasing. There are a lot of products which came into the market, like customer experience analytics products, which will give you a view of what customers are doing in their individual journeys. You can actually see a video recording of the same, and you can find gaps, loopholes, and you can fix them. At the same time, you can also see how you can fix the challenges that they're facing, like whether they can see the category at the right place, whether they can see the subcategory, whether is there a way that we can present the products that they're looking for in less number of iterations or steps. The products can be visibly available on the top of the search result page. So while it sounds all very easy, it's not that easy to visualize and make it available for the customers. And that's where the whole UI UX team or design innovation started happening at Royal Cyber. And today it is led by Tony, as he introduced himself. And we are trying to make new and more innovations, and we are trying to make our customers aware of what that change of ideology in terms of how you should be catering to your customers should come from the clients itself. Our job is to make you guys aware of how to do it, and that's what we're trying to do. We have various assessments that we're offering right now. We'll be talking about that later down the presentation. But idea is, like, we have some case studies that Tony will be walking through on some of the public facing sites. We have removed the logos. They are our customers, but we have removed the logos so that there's no confusion. But we'll try to cater to various industries to give you some basic idea on, if you are looking at that path, on what you should do for your website or your e-commerce site. You might be having some takeaways from here, but we would be open to doing some free assessments for anyone who reaches out to us from this webinar and says, guys, we saw what you guys did. We would be interested to do a complimentary assessment. So Tony's team would be able to take it up, totally complimentary, so we can guide you in the right direction, and whether you work with us or someone else, we'll leave that to you. So on that note, I'll not waste any more time, and I'll pass it on to Tony, so to take us through the basic aspects or basic areas that we should be focusing on when we are trying to focus on the customer journey. So over to you, Tony.
All right. Thanks, Akhil. So before we jump into the first topic of evaluating the foundation of your user experience, I'd like to give you a little bit of the backstory behind this webinar. Royal Cyber started a new service available to any business for free. It's our UX review. Our flavor of the UX review is a little different than most. We look at the foundation areas of UX, which we'll discuss in a second, but our recommendations are demonstrated in a prototype. In other words, we share our recommendations in high fidelity, so you can see how they would look and feel on your current site. And the best part of this is that we do most of these UX reviews in less than a week. So in 5 days or less, you can start a UX strategy in living color. Because of the popularity of this new service, I've been able to review a lot of different sites in a very short period of time, mostly B2C, but some B2B. And I've seen a riot of similar challenges, so much so that I thought it could be helpful for you to hear about my findings. And that was the germ of the idea behind this webinar. I feel this webinar is more of just sharing helpful information. But to be clear, what you'll hear in the next 30 minutes is just my opinion. This is not backed up by rigorous testing or reviews, but I think since I've been doing this for so long, I've earned the right to some sort of creative license and interpretation. But please feel free to call me out during our question and answer section. I promise you, my feelings will not be hurt. Okay, let's talk about the UX Foundation. There are 4 areas that I look at in our UX review. These are, 1, findability. I consider this to be the navigational structure and search experience. Number 2, page structure. These are the main pages consisting of home page, category pages, and grid page. And I look for layout issues that could include the placement of components, filters, and product cards. The third area are the product detail pages, and I consider these to be one of the most critical pages in the purchase funnel. I look at optimization of layout, product details, alt images, and of course messaging. And finally, checkout. Friction points, ease of use will all be considered here. Of course, there are many other very important areas that contribute to a very successful user experience. 2 areas that I'm a big fan of are branded experiences and original content. I consider these 2 areas critical to a robust user experience and brand growth, but it would be way too much to cover in a single webinar. Something that we should talk about before we start looking at the examples is a thing I call customer empathy. Not to be confused with customer sympathy. Customer empathy is putting yourself in the shoes of your customers. It's really tough to do, but it's the only way you can improve your user experience. Many customers I've worked with over the years swear that they know their customers, and I believe they honestly believe that. But it's really, really tough when you're creating requirements to be disciplined enough to map them all back to real customer needs. So again, try thinking like your customers and you'll be way ahead in your user experience improvements. Okay, the first area that we look at in the UX review is findability. This particular company's site is a B2B marketplace for measuring devices, very successful and respected. The biggest challenge this company had was with its navigational system. Their current experience has over 13 primary categories across the horizontal navigation. The fear that leads to navigation like this is the fear of missing out. That is, if a primary category isn't present, no one will ever find it. This is a very common misconception. The tragedy of this kind of thinking is that there is only so much room in the human brain to remember stuff. Cognitive studies show that in short-term memory, we can only remember up to 8 new items. Also, as we get past the limit of our cognitive powers, we tend to forget. So in other words, if you have more than 8 primary categories in your navigation, once your user moves past number 8, they will have a very hard time remembering what category 1 was. A big issue if you structure your navigation with your most important categories first. Okay, so in this UX review, we recommended creating a 3-tier navigational structure. This significantly simplified the product offering. So products were grouped by type, then primary attribute, then by use. So let's take a look at that. So under products, we have, again, product type, primary attribute, and then use. So doing this reduced the cognitive load and improved the browse experience. Most of the customers for this business use search as their primary tool for finding products, but we hypothesized that part of this was probably due to the browse challenges that they were experiencing. We recommend that both browse and search need to be optimized to best serve your customer. We also look at findability issues on mobile. This one was a little surprising because the brand is a well-established retailer, so we were expecting a very mature user experience. But when it came to their navigation, I found some fundamental issues. Mobile, of course, magnifies every UX issue because of wayfinding. People easily get lost. Again, being empathetic is critical. And it should be easy for us to be customer-centric when it comes to mobile because it's such a big part of all of our lives. We're all usability experts when it comes to mobile. The challenge with this experience was with finding common tools for navigation. In the current experience, the gender selector, a critical tool, was separated from the other navigational tools. But even more challenging was that it disappeared when scrolling and required a really good tug to get it back. So if you weren't paying attention, you'd miss it. Our recommendation included combining a combination category link with a search link in the nav bar, and then locating the gender selector on this page, making it easy to access and more of a web convention. So again, being able to have the category link at your fingertips, but then also knowing where the gender selector is always going to be. So as you go to the categories and the subcategories that were most interesting to you, you would be able to find your way back to the directory in this case very quickly. Page structure. The company that we reviewed here is one of the largest suppliers of imprintable sports apparel and accessories. A lot of the recommendations we made were on their grid pages. Their product cards needed more information to convince customers to dive deeper. We suggested expanding the product cards on Hover to reveal more details. Let's take a look at that. So again, on Hover, you would get this additional layer that would give information, in this case, about availability, colorways. We also recommended that they create a compare feature, a save to list, and the ability to share these products because there were multiple stakeholders involved in the decision-making process here. We also suggested a quick shop feature that allowed for those more advanced users or those users that are returning to be able to add to cart with confidence and not have to go to the product detail page. So in this quick shop experience, they were able to check inventory, order specific quantities of specific sizes, and then add to cart. So again, saving a step for these users. The other area on the grid page that we suggested some improvements was in their filtering system. We suggested that they actually, by default, have the filters closed, and that allowed them to actually get the product images up a little bit bigger on their grid pages. But once they opened the filter drawer, they were actually able to then filter by sport and style. This was something new that we recommended. Without having a filter like this, in the current experience, users were forced to go down a specific primary category that allowed them to then choose the sport that they were most interested in and then choose the products. It was a very convoluted way for customers to actually find the products that they needed in the sports that they desire. We suggested they actually introduce these filters at the subcategory level. So if a user was interested in jerseys, they could go down that path. But then after they got to the jersey subcategory, be able to filter by sport or also style to find the product that best fit their needs. The product detail page, probably one of my all-time favorite pages. I consider the product detail page, the PDP, the most critical page for conversion for the obvious reasons. For this highly qualified customer, you need to provide them with the correct information to convince them to add to cart. The best bit of advice I've ever been given about selling is don't get in the way of a sale. And this is so germane to the product detail page. Don't let design or messaging get in the way of a sale. One of the benefits of our UX review is that if you have a specific area that concerns you, we will focus on that. And with this company, it was their product detail page. The challenge with their current PDP is that it really didn't help customers make a purchase decision. The current PDPs were inconsistent with their alt images, product details, and even page layout. So it made comparison of products nearly impossible. Similar to the alt images, very inconsistent from one product detail page to the next. I can't stress enough how important product imagery is, especially for this audience, and the imagery just did not allow customers to visualize the product in use. Since the PDP was so critical to this experience, we actually provided two options. The first one celebrated the material by showcasing the product in real projects. We made all essential product information easily digestible and consistent across all PDPs and archived the information in a drawer structure on the right rail. The appropriate attributes for adding to the cart, as well as ordering a sample, were easily accessible. The content was placed in drawers and was a consistent element across all PDPs, this way making comparison a lot easier. And again, product details in this accordion structure made it simple, again, for comparison, and only those product details that were most important were exposed. We also suggested that they create a way to cross-sale, and we introduced this idea of a product carousel at the bottom of the PDP that allowed them to see products that other customers looked at after looking at this particular product. The second concept celebrated these project imagery even more. Much larger, obviously, but still you could navigate very easily to other project images. The drawer structure underneath made it easier to have a lot more information about this product because obviously the drawer is much bigger, but it also allowed for us to create, in essence, this floating div that presented the price story, that as you scroll down this PDP, the price story would actually follow you. In this case, the sample attributes were closed, but you could easily access them if you would prefer to order samples and not add to cart at this time. And again, the biggest difference between this particular concept and the first one is that it really did celebrate these project images. Checkout. To talk about checkout for this particular company, I need to start with the recommendations we made on their product detail page first. This company had a highly complex price story. As we got deeper into the UX review, we knew that many of the decisions that generally would be made during checkout needed to be introduced on the product detail page. On the product detail page, we recommended presenting their price story as a decision tree, starting with choosing the condition of their product, number 2, choosing their payment plan, and number 3, choosing their ownership option, which was really, the terms of their contract. Once you get to checkout, you would have awareness about all these options that would affect pricing, so it wouldn't come as a surprise, or worse, that this company may be using dark patterns. Also, you could change those options affecting pricing in a familiar format apart from the step checkout process. So let's go to the checkout. The actual checkout experience was similar to most single-page checkouts, with transparency in the number of steps to the process, with the ability to edit any field if necessary. It was a marked improvement over the multi-page current experience. This one-page checkout was obviously also available in mobile. So this is where you can see that price story that we introduced on the product detail page. And again, since you were made aware of the options that could affect the cost of your payments, it wouldn't come as a big surprise. And also, we wanted to make it easily available. So if you wanted to choose some particular characteristic about your purchase plan, you could do that here, and that would obviously affect your cost. So again, trying to introduce the price story early so it didn't come as a surprise, but then also include it in the checkout process. So if you choose to, you could change the conditions of your payments. Okay, let's talk about the importance of having a testing strategy. Not part of the UX Foundation per se, but without a well-articulated usability testing strategy, it would be really, really tough to realize the benefits of your hard-fought gains in UX. It's pretty simple. Usability testing strategy should integrate into everything you do. And I know that sounds aggressive and expensive, but it doesn't need to be. Just think about the alternative. Time and budget invested into UX improvements that may not work. They may not even meet your customers' ever-changing needs. Notice the ever-changing part? It's the ugly truth about your users. Their behaviors, likes, dislikes, attitudes will change over time. Ongoing testing allows you to keep up. So, what does a test strategy look like? Well, they're all different, but there are some similarities. Part of a test strategy doesn't even involve testing at all. It's about discovery. This is the research that you need to do to understand your customers. Without it, it's hard to come up with any hypothesis to test. Next, if you're new to testing, you need to benchmark your current experience. The exact metrics are really up to you, but ideally, you'll have both quantitative and qualitative metrics represented. You need to know what your customers think as well as what they do. Next, and this is more about process than anything else, you'll need to secure the time and make a commitment to test during specific points of the UX design process. Test often, fail fast, make changes. This is a good way to think about the UX process. It's so much cheaper to know something is wrong before you start writing code. Then finally, there is the continual monitoring after an experience launches. This will make sure your hard-earned gains in UX will continue to evolve. So let's summarize. Your UX testing strategy should include discovery, benchmarking, baked-in testing during the UX design process, and a willingness to alter course, and finally, continual monitoring and consumer insights. Okay, now our final topic. How our UX review can help reveal opportunities to improve your UX and conversions. It's pretty simple and designed to be an easy decision to make. Our UX review is a free service that makes it easy for you to visualize changes to your UX that could improve your conversion. And this is not rocket science. The only requirement is to put your customers first. What we can provide through our UX review is a glimpse of a possible UX strategy. Now, before I hand it over to Gil, I just want to reiterate that the UX issues that I've talked about today were common among all the UX reviews I've done. So much so as I look at them as really a persistent pattern, but a pattern that once you know what to look for, can be easily spotted.
So yeah, thank you, Tony. That was, I think that would be very beneficial for much of the audience that we have today. And so we have received a couple of questions. So let me really quickly go through that so we can get some more insight on it. So bear with me. So Tony, the first question we have received is like, how much user research is needed to begin with?
Great question. It really depends on what you already have. So you need to understand or have done an audit on the information that you have on all of your customers. But it's really what your budget can support. But that said, if I was going to invest in research, I'd really focus on doing the kinds of research that gives you an accurate picture of all of your customers and what their journeys are like. So if you have an accurate persona and the individual journey maps that include, things like, goals, needs, expectations, pain points, and more, you can accomplish a ton. So that's where I would start.
Okay. And the second question I have received is, to start improving your UX, are you recommending doing everything you presented at once, or can you do it incrementally? So like,
Well,
maybe a phase 1, phase 2, so on and so forth.
Well, of course, we'd love for you to hire us to do a complete redesign of your site. But to be honest, if you're looking at areas to improve your UX, it's actually a much better strategy to really focus on one area at a time. If you do everything at once, it's really hard to pinpoint what UX improvements were responsible for a positive or negative change. So again, if you're not looking to do a wholesale redesign of your site, I would pick, the areas that you feel could most help you. So for Columbia, when I was working at Columbia, we actually focused on our product detail page as one of our first UX improvements. And honestly, it paid dividends because the change in conversion, once we actually refined the product detail page, was truly amazing.
Okay, got you. I do have a additional question from my side, but let me wrap up all the customer questions and then we'll come back to that. So the third question I have received is ongoing usability testing necessary or needed just during the design phase?
I believe you can't do enough testing, obviously.
Yeah.
And and I could just speak from personal experience, because of the ongoing testing that I did at previous positions, it really led to some innovations, big and small, big product ideas and incremental improvement. And one thing I could point to that came directly out of working with the CX research manager at the time was a customer insight that actually I helped develop into a alternative way of searching for products on this e-commerce site. And just to kind of give you the top line changes that happened because we developed this experience, we found after we launched this site that those customers that actually went to this experience, and we called it basically our technology finder, because this was for Columbia and they had a lot of technologies for their apparel.
Right.
We saw for customers that went through this experience, their average order value increased 23%. And this was 100% related to them being able to confidently buy more expensive products because having that knowledge about the technology enabled them to make that choice. So I'm a firm believer in ongoing testing, not just to see how your experience is improving and if it's meeting your key metrics, but also looking for those customer insights that can lead to some very innovative ideas.
No, I cannot agree more. And I would also want to add a little bit here. So, there are so many customer experience analytics tools available in the market. And these tools are like, they have such a great ROI. Like we have one customer, Copel, whom we are doing a POC with, and it's a complementary POC of our customer experience analytics platform as well. And during their peak sales season, we could see, so what these tools do, they gather data throughout the day and that you can sit in the evening, they have dashboards, you can quickly visualize the data, how it looks like. These tools can actually categorize challenging situations on the site, put them together, and then they can walk it through. So you can see what the challenges are, what the customers are facing, which need not be technical challenges, it's just a user experience. And we were shocked to see that on an average for a whole week, there was $2 million worth of stuff that the customers could not purchase because they were facing either the button is not working on one browser, or when they're clicking on it, it's taking too much time. So we were able to see those and fix them and get that money back. And in case these customers have already gone away, you can always use that contact information from these tools to fetch them back. And I had another manufacturer where we fixed the search experience for the customer, which led to a 17% increase in revenue per hour. So not that they were like getting more customers during those hours, but the time spent by the customers to do a complete checkout has been reduced by 17%. So
Yeah.
these tools, yeah.
And again, and if I could just relate one more personal experience from testing, after we launched our product detail page at Columbia, we noticed a drop off on mobile, which was unusual. But because we did the follow-up research, we were able to introduce what we called a pitch line, which was basically a way in which we could describe the product that was above or close to the fold on mobile. And just that one change, creating a single statement to capture the spirit behind a product, increased conversion 6%. 6%, by adding just a single line of copy, and it's just truly amazing.
Yeah, I hope people in this call are listening to all of this and they can take some, but I do want to throw you under the bus right now. So in the interest of everyone who's in this call right now, so let's say, and you have mentioned various areas on the website that people should be focusing on, and we received a question also whether it should be done incrementally or altogether. So in the interest of everyone who has a pain point, a customer experience as a pain point, and they're trying to see how they can fix it, what should be the most high priority area that they should start looking into? Is it the PLP, PDP, search, homepage? What would you want them to start with?
Honestly, again, there are so many areas that contribute, but if I could pick one or two, and you could kind of tell from my presentation, I have a sweet spot for the product detail page, because I know from experience how just small changes can lead to big results, especially in conversion. So if I was to pick one, I would pick the product detail page. And that's an expensive proposition, because especially if you develop a custom version, which I highly recommend, because honestly, some of the out-of-the-box solutions just don't provide the kind of nuance that you would need to make those kinds of improvements. So product detail page, and if you have information about your checkout process and are wondering about why people are exiting at certain points, that would be my second choice. So it would be product detail page, and then the checkout process would be the two areas that I would look at.
Sounds good. So I hope this has been quite beneficial for everyone. I definitely learned a few more tricks, that I can add to my sleeve. And so guys, whoever is listening in today, we do have a complimentary assessment that we're offering free of cost. It would be high level assessment, as Tony walked you guys through. We would be more than happy to do it for your website, one site per attendee today. And hopefully we'll be able to share some insights which would help you to set up that priority, like whether you should start from the PLP page, PDP page, home page, maybe the the menu. It might not be cutting the deal for you. So please reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to do that complimentary session with you and share our insights with you. Thank you once again for joining, and thank you, Tony, for sharing the insights, your experience with us. Hopefully we'll have some more follow-up webinars based on the feedback we receive. Until then, thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.